boys screws loose, they done stripped the bolts on them. Shoulda never sent them to pick up the work for them. Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart boy was shooting with a 36 on him. Said if he wasn't in the rush, they was all goners.
Greetings, Chudlings. Welcome to another episode of Chuddy's Corner. I am your host, Doug Outs. With me as always, Chuddy, at King Chuddy on Twitter. Make sure you follow us both. I'm at Doug_Outs on Twitter. He's at King Chuddy on Twitter. Chuddy, how you doing tonight?
Doing really well. Another nice win. Beating the Knicks always makes me feel good, and especially with the way we closed out that game, I'm in pretty high spirits. What about yourself?
I'm also doing pretty well. It was nice to see them not let that one slip away or get a little bit closer. So before we get into it, just want to say a special shout out to our sponsor, Nick Perino Real Estate. You can find everything Chuddy's Corner related and everything real estate related at nickperino.com. So make sure you check that out for all your real estate needs. So we'll get right into it. Celtics 114. Oh, also make sure you follow the podcast page at Chuddy's Corner. And you'll get some live updates during the games and all the links to all the different podcasts and things like that. Still sharpening up my intro, so eventually we'll get that perfectly. We'll get that down perfectly. But we'll get right into this one. So the Celtics with a 114-98 win over the Knicks in the Garden. They move on to 8-2 on the year. Obviously, Jason Tatum had a pretty big fourth quarter there. But before we get into all the minute details, Chuddy, what do you think about this game?
Overall, left, like I said, with a great taste in my mouth. I thought the way we looked for the most part in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, was probably the best this team has looked all year. And even in the parts that weren't great, I just thought overall on both ends, tonight looked like the night where the team was the most connected. It looked like they were playing more as a team than as a group of individuals. They had kind of a sense of purpose. They looked like they knew exactly what they wanted to do. And it was funny, I think in the first half, we pointed out that you said, like, we were down by 8, and Scal was like, oh, we're just kind of letting them hang around, even though we were losing. But it honestly did feel that way, because it really did feel like we were playing the right way. It was just a matter of time until we took over. We obviously did. It was far from a perfect game. In the first half, we were seeing kind of a lot of the things that haunt us against the Knicks and teams like the Knicks, where it's almost concerning that seemingly teams like that can almost drag us into the mud too easily, and we're just too talented to do that, but it kind of keeps happening. We're totally playing their game. They were controlling the pace. They were playing nice and slow, taking it way down. Yet again, they were kind of dominating us on the offensive glass, getting second chance after second chances, and then a lot of off their offensive rebounds and a lot of off just ball movement and some kind of us over helping. They were moving the ball and getting a lot of open threes. So it was kind of felt a lot like that first game and a lot like a lot of the meetings did last year, where it felt like we were playing better, but just the little things, the offensive boards, the open threes were just kind of backbreakers that kept them, as he said, in it. I mean, obviously they were winning the game. And they also just weren't turning the ball over. Like, it was totally just valuing the ball. I think I texted you at one point in the first half when we were down 7 or 8. They had 38 shot attempts. We had 28. And, like, the free throws were even. So it's just, if one team is taking 10 more shots, it's going to make what seems like an even game not. And that's really like the whole reason they were winning, was just creating those extra looks by valuing the ball. We had way more turnovers than them at that point. They had way more shots. They were offensive rebounding the ball. So again, a lot of those concerning things. But really flipped the game kind of on its heels in about the last 2 or 3 minutes of that first half. Peyton Pritchard was in there, and Joe went to like a kind of zone pressure out at half court with the point guards. I think it was Jrue and Peyton, or it might have been Peyton and Derek. But either way, they were kind of just started blitzing the ball handles, making it tough for especially Randall when he was kind of operating comfortably out there to that point. Caused a couple turnovers. I think we got 2 run-out dunks and a 3. Closed the half on a 13-4 run and then a 9-2 run and got it to within 1. And kind of never looked back from there. Came out in the third quarter, immediately back into that pressure. And it was like the message was clear. We can't just let them dictate the pace all game. We just got into that pressure, made them uncomfortable on offense. We really ratcheted up the defense. They started the same way as they did the first game. Jrue on Randall, Brown on Brunson, which they were doing all right, but I thought they switched in the second half a little bit out of the gate, and that messed with them. Randall and Brunson also really were keeping them in the game in the first half. They were both just making a lot of tough shots.
Brunson was lights out early.
Yeah, and I didn't think our defense was
little
bad.
bulldog.
But yeah, they were both really playing impressive. And then in the second half, that kind of changed. I think the pressure bothered them a little more, especially getting, I think, Brown just a little more size on Randall. It was harder for him to shoot because he was just kind of shooting over Jrue after a certain point. I think he finally realized, like, I'm not, even though I'm bigger than this guy, I'm not bodying him in the paint. So he just started shooting over him. Randall was having a good shooting half. So I think that switching that worked, pressuring him outside more, kind of forcing his dribble. I think Peyton snatched it a few times. White knocked it away. So the defensive intensity was awesome. And
I think once they started going to the double on Randall, that kind of really just started to mess with him. I don't think he was prepared for that and knew how to adjust to that.
For sure. The pressure, all around the pressure really seemed to help because Brunson was kind of the only guy who you trusted to actually like dribble and make anything happen. And I mean, he was a lot, but it was like anyone else, you could really, really pressure those Knicks ball handlers. And that was working really well. So, I mean, we pulled out to like a 7-8 point lead, closed the third quarter really strongly as well. And then in the fourth, it almost felt like we were kind of cruising, pulling away with it. The Knicks had a couple, I don't want to say lucky, fluky plays, but they kind of did hit 2 back-to-back threes. They got it back to 3 points in the fourth quarter. It was 91-88, even though it felt like we should have been up way more. And then the next possession, Tatum came down, step back 3 and 1. Then Jrue drew an offensive foul. Then he hit a 3, back up 10. And from there, I think it was like a 17-2 or 4 run. It went from 91-88 to 108-92. And that was the game. And in that sequence especially, you just kind of saw the full potential of the Celtics on both ends. It was absolutely smothering defense. Like I said, D. White seemed like he was just getting his hands on everything. Porzingis was contesting everything around the rim. I mean, the guy obviously has his flaws, against big, strong, physical guys, as we saw a little bit at times with the Mitchell Robinson matchup, but he was just kind of playing it perfectly. They were all just, again, moving and seemed so connected. Like the switches were on point, the dropping was on point. A couple of threes here and there, and especially in that third quarter, Quentin Grimes got hot, and that really kept them in the game as well as getting them in the bonus early. But for the most part, once the Celtics kind of ratcheted up those mistakes, and they did, because after halftime, the Celtics actually ended up with more second chance points than the Knicks. I don't think they gave up a single second chance point in the second half. They kept the offensive rebounds very reasonable after a really shaky start. The Knicks still managed to hit threes. The Knicks actually shot 43% on threes for the game and only 42% overall, which is obviously you almost never see, but I think it speaks to how well the Celtics were playing defensively, and it was really just kind of guys getting open, hitting threes, who I think were guys who were kind of funneling shots too. And I think for the most part of the Brunson, it's like if these guys are going to hit shots, we'll live with it. Again, I should obviously say RJ Barrett was out with that migraine. Say what you want about RJ, but he's definitely a pretty good player for them, and he's played well against us a number of times. So that made it a little easier. And the Knicks also did play yesterday coming off a back-to-back, but still good win, good tough team. And it was really good to just kind of pummel them at the end and pull away and really impose our will. Felt good to just kind of establish that dominance where it felt like if it wasn't for that late run, it would have felt like a little bit of an underwhelming victory for how well we played.
Yeah. All right. Lot to dig into on that take. Very thorough analysis there. I do think early on Brunson was playing really well for him. I think he had like 11 points in the first quarter, finished the game with like 26. So they obviously did a few things to make him a little bit more uncomfortable. Only score 15 points in the last 3 quarters. That was a pretty big thing for us. I also think the different defensive looks. I think at one point we were even in a zone defense, which was kind of cool. We started off the third quarter with a press that worked out pretty well, aside from Tatum basically rock bottoming Josh Hart, which I'm fine with too. I think that's awesome.
Definitely.
I think that's worth any foul right there to get that in somebody's head. I think one thing that we did pretty well this time was we didn't let that motherfucker Emmanuel Quickly.
I thought you were going with
no, I do have a Frankenstein take, but I'll get to that later. We kind of kept Quickly under wraps. He had a really poor shooting night. I feel like he wasn't just kind of getting to all of his spots as easily. He's a fast dude. He's almost like a poor man's Maxey. He sort of reminds me of. I don't know.
Definitely. Both Kentucky guards. They played together, I think, at Kentucky too. So,
there you go.
It's obvious the similarities between them, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that they did a lot to kind of key in on him because I thought that he played a lot better on us last time as well. Just overall, I think we ratcheted it up. The offensive rebounds were really pissing me off in the first half. That was one of Chuddy's keys to the game, was to keep the offensive rebounds in a wrap, something we didn't do. The 3-point shooting was absolutely getting to me, but I think what happened is we started to get up more shots. Like you had said, we just weren't getting shots up. It wasn't so much that like they were just doing anything crazy. It just was that we weren't shooting enough to be able to take a lead against them. So once we started to shoot more, we took a lead and were able to hold on to that lead. I do think that the defense felt better in the second half, but they only scored seven fewer points in the second half than in the first half. So I feel like the defense overall was pretty good all around. I just think it was more that the offense was able to get going and get shots up. It definitely felt like more stifling. I think that the Knicks were probably missing more shots, which is obviously a testament to the defense. But just overall, I think it was just kind of a tough, gritty win. Those New York Knicks games are never fun. I know people like to say that, it's just the Knicks, and like you said, off a back-to-back without RJ Barrett. But still, it's just a hard game. There's no easy games against these Knicks. So it was nice for us to sort of kind of not lose our cool in that one and just end up pulling out a pretty good win. Tatum going off in the fourth quarter was really nice too. Yeah. He said after the game, like he was missing all the open threes and then he started to make contested threes late in the fourth. Mm-hmm. So again, I just think a lot of that is just sort of his maturity and his growth as a player. I guess if I had to point out a concern for me was I thought that Derek White didn't have really that good of a game today. He hit his first shot with about 2 minutes left, and it was a pretty big three. It put us up, I think, 111-95. So it was a pretty big three, kind of a put away three. But just overall, he sort of just seemed a little bit sort of out of it. He had a couple good defensive plays. I know he had a steal in the fourth quarter too on Brunson. That was like he kind of just snuck up behind him and pocketed him. But I do feel like there was just a few times where he just kind of looked, I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of digging too much into it. He just sort of looked like a little bit like, I don't know, just far away. I don't know what's going on there. He didn't have a great game last game either. I don't think that it's I don't think it's going to be a long-term issue. I think he still will make plays where he needs to make plays, but shooting wise, I'd like to see him get going a little bit more. So I guess if I had to point out something, a slight concern, because apparently we're sometimes a little too positive, even when the team is 8-2 and we're playing well.
Just tell it like it is.
I would say, well, no, yeah, and I will, but I do think that Derek White had just had kind of a tough game. Porzingis didn't get a technical, so there's a positive there too.
Tatum did though.
Tatum did, but that one I think was worth it. Yeah. I think that was kind of a tough call. I do have a thought on Josh Hart's technical, but we can get to that later. But yeah, like you said, I think it was a good win. We turned things around in the second half. We outscored them 62-45 in the second half. So that's how you put a team like the Knicks away. Exactly. Every time they came storming back, we sort of just jumped right back out. It was as a Knicks fan, that's the most frustrating way to go. And as a Celtics fan, we've been on the other side of that sometimes chasing teams, specifically in that Sixers game last week. So it was nice to kind of be on the right side of that.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, digging into a little of that, we mentioned obviously the keys were preventing the open threes and preventing the offensive rebounds. Obviously, those things are kind of tied together because it's like how many times do the Knicks get a back-breaking offensive rebound after we played good defense and then they kick it out and someone has a wide-open three. So it seemed like the things kind of went hand in hand. Once we stopped letting up the offensive rebounds, they were just having to work so much harder for everything on offense, and they kind of those cheap, easy looks weren't coming because we weren't letting up the O boards, which is huge. And that's, something that takes commitment from everyone. You saw Hauser was in there battling for rebounds, all the guards. I mean, Pritchard, what a great rebounder. Both those guys off the bench were great. Brown and Tatum. I think I wrote down at one point, like, maybe this is obvious, but I just haven't really like actually processed it in this way. But like, Tatum is our best rebounder. He just is.
I don't know that's up for debate.
It just seems weird to
tall, but I feel like he always just gets a finger on it and he never like brings a ball down. I think he has a lot of like, there's no stat for it, but like assisted rebounds where I think he's kind of like tapping the ball up and it gets to somebody, but you just don't see him come down with the ball the way that you do with Tatum. It's pretty impressive what he does he's a big guy, but he's not that big.
Right. No, it's very impressive. And I think he knows, I think we kind of go through those lapses when either he's out or he kind of forgets how important it is for him to rebound. And I think part of that, obviously Porzingis is much bigger than Rob, but Rob was just such a vacuum for rebounds down there that I think when he was in there, like guys like Tatum and Brown probably knew we can kind of leak out. Rob is just going to snatch everything in sight. Whereas now I think they have to remind themselves at times like, oh yeah, I have to get down there and rebound because I'm like one of our best rebounders.
Do you think that like, do you think just like being down there in the paint more, getting rebounds sort of translates to like their just willingness to kind of be more in the paint on the other end too, on offense and stuff too? Because I feel like, I don't know, It's just maybe they're
I
just
mean,
kind
I
of
think
getting
it
more
can. I think
comfortable in
it's
that
natural.
area.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
don't think it's
natural
like
when
a
you're down
direct.
there.
It might just be like you're not even realizing it. Like you're
Right.
just sort of down low, banging around for rebounds, banging dudes, as Charles Barkley would say, for rebounds. That when you come down the other end, you're just sort of like
Mhm.
that contact. You're not so concerned with it as much. I don't know. I don't know if it's not
So I think
probably
that's
directly
part of
related, but
it. I think part of it too on the offensive end, and a big thing that was, I really think one of the keys to the game that I noticed from start to finish really was how involved Porzingis was in the offense tonight,
Mhm.
and how much it just opens everything up for us. Like it was night and day when he was on and off the court, I thought, especially in the first half when we were kind of struggling without him. But it was like the full package. We saw him setting screens, like his two-man game was there with Jalen and Jason. He had multiple screen and rolls for both of them, getting open alley-oops. He had the one that looked like it was going to be an and one, but they just called it on the floor. I mean, stupid call,
Inexplicable.
but great play. And
He was
again, that was
flying
just,
through the air.
yeah, no, made no sense. But that was, again, a result of just him screening. And then in the second half, they switched it up. He was screening and then popping, not rolling. And that led to, I mean, again, that was when you go into the paint, like Mitchell Robinson, basically a great rim protector, but he couldn't leave Porzingis because Porzingis is too good of a three-point shooter. So at that point, he's picking and popping. He's drawing the big outside. The lane was wide open. That was just beautiful to see. They were running the dribble handoff play with both of them, which I've been wanting to see. He had the forceful putback dunk. He hit threes when he had a mismatch in the post. They went to him, and he was putting those post moves on display. Even not a mismatch. I mean, even Mitchell Robinson, if he gets in there, he knows he could just do that little jump hook over him.
Yeah.
No problem. Great touch around the basket. So again, it was really like the full package on display offensively for Porzingis, and it feels like they're just kind of scratching the surface of all the things they can do just with him out there with a guy like that and the threat he poses. How much that should make the game easy for both of Jays. And tonight was the first time where it was like really seemed like they knew that and were just going to it over and over again and generating great looks every time. Another thing,
he was a plus 19 on the night too, so I know that you know plus minus is the ultimate. When it's good, you use that stat. When it's bad, you just kind of say, "Oh, that's a silly stat."
No,
but
it was
past you could tell. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What was your other point?
Well, and then also it's, I mean, partly related to that point, but a little bit different is that also when Porzingis is outside, you could see it a couple times in the first half, a few times in the second half, and then kind of just became a bread and butter action was just getting Tatum kind of isolated in that mid post, sending it into him with Josh Hart on him, who Josh Hart is a great defender and has done last year a really good job on Tatum. But again, this was just, they were throwing it into Tatum. He would start posting up, and Tatum at this point just expects to be double teamed. So it was almost weird, I think, that they were leaving Hart on him, and he would just do like two dribbles back down, mid range, just automatic. Like he's just automatic in that mid range if there's no help. And when the help does come, he's so good at passing out of the double teams. Like that was what got him started, I thought. Where those
fadeaway
little
baseline jumper, is that the one you're talking about? Yeah.
Well, yeah, he did it like
that
three
a few
times. When I think, yeah, exactly. And I think the defender just couldn't cheat over because twice it was Porzingis. I think one time it was Hauser. And it's like the defender can't leave that guy to go help Tatum. And if he's down there one-on-one, I mean, like I said, Hart's a good defender, but Tatum's going to eat him alive if they keep letting that happen. And he did over and over again. So that was awesome to see. Again, like I said, the score for a while didn't represent how like actually much I liked the process of how we were playing. And again, it seemed like we really kind of unlocked some things tonight. And obviously in the fourth quarter, it kind of all clicked and came together. Just to speak to Derek White, it's funny because at one point I was like looking and he was just having like a tough shooting night and making a couple plays. But I was thinking like, what a blessing it is to have a guy like Derek White, who I feel like that's almost the only thing you can even like negatively, you can only criticize like his shooting. It's like he's never having a bad game, he's just having a bad shooting night because he's just so solid like at everything he does. And in that
I thought he was struggling a little defensively early on.
A little bit, I think, but I thought in the fourth he was just so good, and he was such a big part of that run. And he made that one play, like you said. It seemed like he did it like three times, where he just kind of snuck up on the guy after they got a rebound. It would get us an extra possession, like little things like that. And again, we really usually don't need his offense, especially on a night like tonight where both Jays were pretty good. Porzingis was good. We were getting points from Hauser off the bench. Hauser
the big three had a great night.
I thought Pritchard was awesome too. He didn't score a ton of points, but I loved when he went in there. I mean, this is what you're looking for from the bench. This is what we said. It's not just the shooting. This is what we want to see. He brought so much energy. It seems like Pritchard comes in and it's like an auto press. As soon as he's in, they start pressing or doing some weird zone, like a trapping D. And it's just working. It's messing with teams like him and Jrue, him and Derek, basically any combo of the guys that are out there. Saw a nice little couple two-man game connections between him and Hauser out there. They've obviously got some experience. Interesting, again, it was just Al Pritchard and Hauser off the bench. That was it. 8-man rotation tonight felt kind of, it's early, but kind of what like they want the rotations to be again, where it was Hauser and Al were the first guys who came in. It's funny too how it's been like Jrue and Al are the guys who like share the matchup, whether it was, Randall tonight or it was Embiid last time. It's like that's Drew's guy, and then he goes out, Al comes in and he covers him, and those are the only guys who cover it, those like big guys. I know they switched it to Jalen, but it kind of got me thinking, like when we play Giannis, I think are we just going to straight up start Jrue on Giannis? Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, we used to do it with Marcus, God rest his soul, and I mean, I feel like Jrue has been pretty much where we used to do that with him. He's kind of been stepping up. I don't think that he's going to shy away from that opportunity.
Right, and I don't think we're going to start Horford. Like, it's definitely not going to be Porzingis. So it's
I don't know
one of
who
the
else it would
Jays.
be. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
So it's probably going to be True.
I mean, it could be Jalen. Jalen's put on, or not Jalen. Well, maybe Jalen, but I meant to say Tatum just because Tatum's put on. I think either
one of the Jays could do it.
Muscle.
I just think they'd rather not overtask those guys defensively if they don't have to, especially when you have so many other good defenders. So I bet they'll start with Jrue on him, also just like to mess with him.
Yeah,
so I'm sure those guys
think
played
that's a guy too with obviously you can't leave Lillard like open and stuff like that, but I think the rest of that team offensively, like I wouldn't be afraid of putting a lot more traps on Giannis and stuff like that in games.
Right. And the rest of our personnel, like Derek White and or Jaylen Brown, can both cover Lillard. Like, he's going to get some points, but those are still two great defenders. Like, Brown has the length and quickness, and White is obviously just amazing at like staying on guys, fighting through screens, all that. So no matter kind of how we swing it, and we were doing that too, like I said, switching up the guys who were especially on Brunson. You mentioned Quickly too. It seemed like they realized Quickly loves to just drive into people's bodies, force contact, and then kind of fall away for those like almost hook layups. And it seems like we kind of just figured that out. And Porzingis was almost just like baiting him into it and then just contesting so high and basically daring Quickly to be like, all right, if you can make this like finger roll, lofting it over the backboard, like good for you. And you just, it seemed like they kept rolling off the rim. So it's like I said, it's nice to see them kind of grow in real time. And it's like we're actually watching them learn together. Because I mean, I know during an NBA season, these teams don't really like practice a lot. They have shoot-arounds and walkthroughs and stuff. But I think a lot of the learning and growth, we're going to see it right in front of our eyes on the courts during game action. And we saw it tonight. And again, in that fourth quarter when they cut it down to 3, and that was this time where in years past, a team like this, we could have wilted. And against the Knicks, you kind of expected at that point, like, shit, buckle up. We're in for a dogfight somehow. And it went the other way again. I mean, Tatum was the headliner, but I thought it was just kind of almost like everyone played really well, fit into their role, did what they wanted, top to bottom. Like, I feel bad almost not singling anyone out. Like, Jrue was awesome on both ends. I thought Jalen did a lot of good things on both ends. Just, again, so many positive takeaways, and just felt really good to close them out the way we did. Leave no doubt.
I think, I agree with all of that. I do think it was one of those games that it felt closer until the buzzer. You didn't really feel comfortable just because of our past experiences with the Knicks. I do think one guy we should definitely single out is Hauser. His shooting has just been lights out.
He's just a straight up guy.
Yeah,
like he's just a straight up part of the rotation. Like
we were texting a little bit during the game too, and you had sort of mentioned like we've been looking for a while. We've had a lot of guys who can come in and hit shots, but who aren't necessarily as good defensively. I think that he's been able to come in to be very good defensively. I think people don't realize how good he is defensively, which creates a good situation for him because teams try to like attack him on offense, and they just end up kind of getting just a bad shot or a bad possession because he's sort of prepared for it. I think part of that might be that this is a guy who now for 2 or 3 years has been in practice going against guys like Jalen and guys like Tatum. So definitely. For him, when he's out there and all of a sudden he has fucking DiVincenzo going, trying to take him to the rack or something like that,
he even had
probably feels a lot easier. It's Randall. Like you take the weighted jacket off and go for a run, So
definitely.
I think Hauser, I think that some of those bench guys, I think there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be streaky periods. They kind of both had a slower start, but he's found the shot. I think the roof would have came off the Garden if he hit that shot at the end of the third quarter.
I know. He almost did.
Yeah, so that would have been really nice. But I think Hauser definitely, just deserves at least a little quick credit. Not that I think you were leaving him out, but like you said, there was just so much other good stuff that it's kind of hard to point out everything.
Hauser was awesome. So. And it's easy to get lost with how well we played at the end. But in the first half, when we were struggling at least to make shots, again, I liked the process, but when we were losing and we weren't making shots, Hauser, again, for the second time this year, it seemed like kind of kept us in a game almost single-handedly with just, it seemed like the Knicks were dying.
That's what he needed to do, yeah.
Double digits
exactly
over
what you
and
need
over.
Those guys to do. 12 points for Hauser, 4 for 6 from 3.
And all timely.
Can't ask for much more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that
So
second half again, only allowing 45 points and a half is absurd. And I know a couple of those threes at the end were just like garbage time. Like they really, really put the clamps down, and it really was just eliminating. Stop turning it over. Stop giving them easy, second chance points and this and that. And like goes to show, we again ended up with 34-18. We won points in the paint. 15-14. We won the second chance points. And then to speak to how good the Celtics offense was, we shot 51% from the field, 44% from three, and only missed one free throw the whole night. So, like I said, on both sides is really what you want to see, and it still feels like we could play better.
yeah. One other just Celtics note I have on it. So early in the game, when Porzingis got called on that foul on Julius Randle, it almost looked like he was limping a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then towards the end of the game, he stayed in the game. It looked more like not like a ligament thing, but more like he got like a knee to the like a Charlie horse type thing. But I noticed at the end of the game, right before they took him out, it looked like he was kind of limping a little bit there. So I don't know if that's something just to keep an eye on.
I think
Like I
that'll
said,
be
I
something
think
to
it's
keep an
more
eye on all year.
well, yeah.
How he's walking and stuff.
But I do think that, it might have just been sort of like a bone bruise where it's like as the game was winding down, that adrenaline sort of coming out and that sort of bruise is starting to feel like something. But just with the Philly game coming up, it's definitely something I want to keep an eye out for. But like you said, we're going to be worrying about that. Every time he goes down to the floor, it's like your heart stops for a second.
Yeah.
Real quick, too, Jrue Holiday, 15,000 points for his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of 19 active players with 15,000 points, so that's just good to see. Just a longtime veteran who's really coming to his own at a later stage of his career. So
seems like Tatum will be there in about 2 weeks.
I know it is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy that
He's got 10,000.
Tatum just got 10K, and this guy's been in the league for that long. But again, it's still a pretty good achievement. I had one other just sort of thought, and it's not necessarily like an X's and O's thing, but it was when Josh Hart got that technical foul for sort of like barking at the ref a little bit. It definitely looked like he had some choice words for the ref there. And so Tatum goes up and he shoots the free throw. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, I feel like that's for a player, that's kind of like a good deal for you. Like, you get to just tell the ref basically to fuck off. And like at most, it costs you a point. Like, and the guy might miss it. It's like if you were if you're just thinking strictly from like an
Brunson
economic standpoint.
Tatum free throw.
What's that?
When Tatum got the tee, Brunson missed the free throw.
Yeah,
so I was like, all right.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's just like an economic, supply and demand, whatever.
No, it's definitely true.
It seems like a great deal. The most it costs you is a point. Obviously, if you lose the game by a point, it looks worse. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you got to tell the ref to go fuck himself, and cost you a point.
Until you hang on the rim for a second and a half and get your second technical thrown out.
Yeah.
But,
There was at one point too. He started barking a little bit more, and I was wondering if he was going to get himself tossed. At that point, the value is much more skewed towards the ref. But I do just think, just one shot for getting it. It's got to feel good. At some point, there's got to be some of those players probably like it, are okay with that exchange.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. Yeah,
I only had a handful of other things. One was just how, again, huge run to end the first half to get it. Like, again, we were down almost double digits and had back down by 1 at halftime. And then again, the third quarter, we kind of let them linger around, went on another big run to close out the third quarter, and then obviously finished the game in the fourth quarter on like a 25-7 run to close it out. So I'm again, that's just the mark of good teams is closing out quarters. And it's just crazy. It makes such a big difference. Like, NBA halves can seem so long, and it seemed like one team could be outplaying you for 22 minutes. And then in those last 2 minutes, when you can kind of turn it on and just erase all of that work, like, that is what championship teams do. And again, I know it's early, but just to see the Celtics routinely doing things like that to end quarters and kind of upping their urgency in a way that, like I said, that's like championship medal, stuff like that, I think goes a long way and is very important. And to see them do it, this isn't the first game, but tonight it was like every quarter after the first, they closed in such a big way. And that's another thing that just has to be so demoralizing for the opponents. Like we said, how hard the Knicks fought in that first half for them to go into the locker room only up 1. It just has to weigh on you and has to be like, God damn, we just played that good of a half.
Rip their hearts out. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we're not barely even winning. Like, so that is huge and something to keep an eye on. And then the only other thing I was going to say was, again, we kept talking about the second chance points, the offensive rebounds, this and that. And like I said, I texted you that at one point late in the first half, the Knicks had 10 more shot attempts than we had. And then at the end of the game, it ended up 79 shot attempts each. So that just goes to show how much they ratcheted up the defense, focus on rebounding. So again, I mean, I was getting a little concerned watching that, where I knew, if I'm saying it should be a point of emphasis, I'm sure the coaching staff is noticing that too. So it's kind of concerning when it's like, okay, we know that this is kind of the only way they can beat us, and we're still letting them do it. So the fact that we were able to ramp it up, and it seemed like everyone did kind of just up the intensity. And again, I mean, to win the second half, what did you say the score was, like 62-44 in the second half, is pretty damn dominant against, a good team who's a rival and who plays that kind of tough style that seems to be the style of basketball games that we always struggle with.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it on the things to watch for. So just a quick plug, we're going to start having Chuddy's keys to the game before every game. So today's where take care of the ball, box out, don't let those offensive rebounds happen, and the defending the 3-point line. So I think all three of those things came in, like you said, if you're mentioning it, the coaches probably were too, and they sort of, after a rocky start, kind of ratcheted down on that stuff. So great keys by you, and we'll keep those coming for you guys before every game. So yeah, I don't have really much else to add about this game besides just that it was a great win, and hopefully we can carry that over. Was an opportunity maybe looking ahead to the Sixers, didn't do that. So a big test coming up. We'll get into the Sixers at the end of the podcast, a little preview of that, but. I guess now I'll pass it over to you for anything around the NBA. I have a few things, but I'll let you go first because you might cover a few of those anyway.
Yeah, a lot of around the NBA stuff tonight. I'll try to rip through it as fast as I can. So first, we'll go back to the last game again. We got to clean up our loose ends. So right after we went off the air last game, we saw that the Raptors, and specifically, I guess, Dennis Schroeder, were kind of annoyed and pissed that Joe had called that challenge with 3 minutes left in garbage time, which we had actually talked about on the pod and kind of laughed at what a sicko that Joe is. And the Raptors took offense to it. But I actually thought the way Joe put it afterwards was perfectly, that he said, like, my responsibility is to coach my players. They're out there busting their ass. Like, I want to show them that I care. He's like, and it's true. Like, the players were passionately playing defense. They were calling for the coach to challenge. Like, him challenging is showing, like, yeah, I'm still here coaching you. I trust my players. So I thought, I'm totally fine with that. I don't care. I think it's,
I'm 100%. I think shut the fuck up.
Yeah, sour grapes for them to be bitching about that after losing by like 30. And, it's like, whatever. But anyway. Then a couple other little Celtics things. I saw it was nice that they named the media center after Heather Walker, who passed away. That was nice. They had the Heather Walker shirts on today, so nice little moment to see. There was also a nice story about the emerging bromance with Jalen and Porzingis, who apparently live in the same building, commute together a lot. Sounds like they're hanging out, getting to know each other. So
yeah,
I wish a sucker for those kind of stories.
I wish I saved the tweet, but so I could give the person credit for it. But I saw like someone said that they're sort of just picturing like Jaylen Brown almost being like a Jerry Seinfeld, and Porzingis just like sliding into the door like Kramer or something like that, and just like going into his fridge.
Porzingis kind of looks like the Bizarro Kramer from that episode, if you recall.
He does, so.
That's
awesome.
Intern will post that screenshot if you can't picture it, but fun story. Like I said, I'm just always a sucker for anything that sounds like chemistry and stuff that just kind of goes into what we want to
I love them carpooling. That's got to be awesome.
Yeah, that is funny. That's definitely funny. Another interesting Celtics-related story, Grant Williams went on the Kenny Beecham pod and said that basically it was just kind of interesting. I thought that he said the Celtics really wanted him back and were really kind of upset when he didn't go back to them. Which I thought was, who knows how much that's true and how much that's like before the Porzingis trade, after, but just thought it was interesting how he was saying he was kind of like angling to go to the Mavs all along. Again, not really sure what to make of it, just thought it was interesting. And then the only other Celtics thing, which was super interesting and kind of dropped during the game tonight, that a team in the NBL, the Australian Professional League, fired their coach, and the interim coach who just got named is Jason Tatum's dad, which is, I had no idea he was even like involved so heavily in the coaching world. Kind of cool, I guess. I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know if he and Jason have the best relationship, and it sounded like there were some things in that article about that the way his dad coached him, basically, he just kind of like made Tatum cry all the time and almost turned him off the game, and it like ruined their relationship. But I think it obviously, the results it had on Tatum becoming the player he is are probably, I don't know. It's one of those weird things, but just a weird story that totally got me off guard. Is it like
a Jesus Shuttlesworth situation, or?
Perhaps. I got to read into that one more. I didn't have time to really dig in. I was kind of, like I said,
we don't want to speculate just in case we want to have Tatum as a guest.
No, definitely not. Maybe he can come on here to discuss.
Yeah, great. Yeah, if you'd like to discuss your relationship with your father, the podcast is available.
Happy to entertain
an open forum.
Yeah. So they're getting away from the Celtics, but keeping with the theme of former Celtics. The latest to catch the injury bug, Jay Crowder, went down. I actually didn't even see what the injury was, to be honest.
I think
I just
it was
saw
like
the DBO.
adductor or
Yeah, an adductor. You're absolutely right. Going
Which-
to be out for at least 8 weeks.
what's an
Crazy.
adductor? Is that a dumb question? It sounds like something you have to get replaced in your house every 10 years.
That's a good question for the intern. I'm not sure.
Intern,
either
get
way,
on that.
He'll be out for 8 weeks. Might not seem like much, but he was third on the Bucks in minutes this year. So it just goes to show. We keep talking about how thin the Bucks are. He's
they're in trouble.
One of arguably still their best wing defender, no matter how washed you might think he is. That is yet another blow to the Bucks. And these former Celtics just can't escape the injury bug. On a somewhat happier Celtics note, did you see the Marcus Smart game-winning assist from the floor the other night?
Yeah, that little tap.
A vintage Marcus play, like truly. And it's fun to see Grizzlies Twitter kind of falling in love with him and realizing all like the little things that he brings to the team has been somewhat enjoyable, making it a little easier to get over that. It was also a fun game to see him beat the Clippers, of course, now 0-4 since the system has gotten there. So that was cool. And then you're seeing the reverse effects of the system on the other side. The Sixers just look like the best team and the happiest team in the league. Most recently, last night, Tyrese Maxey goes 50 points. He had 50 points, I think 7 assists and 5 rebounds. Maxey, I mean, we've already talked about him, but he's legit. Like, he might be an all-NBA guy at this point. He doesn't turn the ball over.
And I'll put my hand up. I thought that guy was just like, I didn't think that he would turn out to be anything last year. He just seemed like one of those kind of thorn in your side guy, but he's...
Yeah, he seemed like a spark plug really off the bench scorer, and that was kind of it. But it's like, again, now the Harden trade looks that much better because it's just opened up them to use Maxey this way, and it's like, oh shit, we already have the star, was here hiding in plain sight. So hated as a Celtics fan, but impressive stuff to see for the Sixers. All right, what else we got? Let's swing around here's one for you. There's 4 teams right now in the NBA that are top 10 in offense and defense. Celtics, Sixers, Nuggets. Who do you think's the 4th?
Timberwolves.
Good guess, but no, their offense is not. It is the Houston Rockets. And they've won 6 in a row. They beat the Nuggets last night. Alperen Şengün looks like a baby Jokic. Ime Udoka.
Şengün, that's a great name.
Yeah, the Şengün. No, he's amazing to watch. And again, what a blessing by them also that Brook Lopez stood them up in free agency, because Şengün is like a star in the making, if not already. He's amazing. That team looks really good. They're totally bought into Ime ball, and like they were arguably the laughingstock of the league for the last like 3 to 4 years, and he came in and has already changed the culture. I don't know if this will last and they're as good as their record has been so far, but either way, like, they're now a legit franchise. They're a good team, a fun team to watch, and they haven't played defense like this in 5 years, so hard not to tip your hat to Ime. We'll see if they can keep that up.
I did have that as one of my around the leagues of just sort of, I think, the reaction from like some Celtics fans just sort of like, oh, like, I can't believe we got rid of Ime, like, blah, blah, and like, I don't know. I just think personally that shit's kind of lame. I think that Joe's done pretty well. I think we're about, we got to the finals with Ime and did. I think that was more to do with Tatum's rolled ankle. I mean, we still may have lost that game to the Heat, but I think that, I don't know. The guy literally fucked his way out of Boston. There's just, we'll never know exactly what it was. It might not have been as bad as people said it was going to be at first. It might have been worse. Who knows? But I just think that the people sort of like saying, like, would you, trade such and so, like, I don't know how serious they are, but I see the shit on Twitter about Ime, and I just think it's fucking stupid. He's there. We have Mazzulla now. The team is playing well. Just like shut the fuck up, basically.
Unless you exactly.
We do love our listeners though.
I'm rooting for Ime. Like I'm just
right.
Over.
Yeah,
I've moved on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It sucks that the whole situation went down the way it did, but at this point, it's stupid to keep dwelling on it.
Houston's a good spot for that level of horniness, though. I think he'll fit in just right there.
Couldn't agree more. Speaking of dangerously horny, this story just rubs me the wrong way. Miles Bridges.
Come on. Did you just mean to do that? Speaking of dangerously horny, this story just rubs me the wrong way. Dear God.
The Miles Bridges situation is just awful, and it sucks that they can't do something about it. Steve Clifford said that as soon as he's eligible next week, he'll play and he'll have a big role on the team. And this guy is just a scumbag in every sense of the word. And again, the fact that nobody from the Hornets to the league to the legal system in this country can seemingly like step in and stop this from happening. Just sucks. Like, as a fan of the NBA, I mean, the Hornets are a good, fun, young team to watch. Why they want to bring this in is beyond me. Like, I feel like it would just be better for the culture of the team and the fan base and the young core you have to just tell this guy to kick rocks and be like, we don't give a shit about losing the asset. You're just an asshole. So I wish that would happen. It doesn't look like it's gonna.
Yeah, I didn't realize that he was this close to coming back, but yeah. That
it's
guy,
on the verge of happening.
That is one player who does not have an open invite to be on Chuddy's corner.
Definitely not.
Camera went out, Chuddy. Oh, there you go.
I think I'm back. Low battery warning. So we got to wrap this up within 10%. I think we'll be all right. I only got a few more. Our old friends in Miami, the Heat, absolutely rolling as well, 5 in a row, and it's coincided with Tyler Hero going out with a sprained ankle. Are we? Is that just like too obvious to even say? Like is he not enough of a star to say it's like a Ewing theory type situation where they're just clearly better when he doesn't play, no matter like.
I don't think he's a big enough star, but yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely looks that way. I mean, they played pretty well without him last year in the playoffs, and it looks like they're playing. And it's given our boy Cardinal Richelieu or whatever
Jaime Jaquez.
It's given him a chance to kind of show up. That guy just is a prototypical guy that's gonna fucking piss me off if we play him in the playoffs. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I can already tell.
100%. Another interesting thing to watch: the Pelicans is already they finally have their 2 stars healthy, and things don't look good at all. The floor spacing is awful. There's too much. But the Brandon Ingram Zion fit just might not work. And Zion had a somewhat troubling press conference yesterday where he looked extremely frustrated, basically just kept saying, like, I'm doing my best to buy in and try to play my role. Why that is his role right now, I have no clue. I don't know. Something needs to change because with the talent they have, it should not be this bad. So just something interesting to keep an eye on. I don't know if Zion and Ingram both will make it through the season on that team. Update on Kelly Oubre. We obviously broke the news the other night on Chuddy's Corner that he was hit by a car. We now know that he was released from the hospital, bruised ribs, and some other smaller injuries. So luckily he is okay.
Like a hip and a leg injury too.
Yeah, he'll be out for a while, obviously, but I guess all things considered, lucky that that's all it was. It's a hit and run situation. So I mean, really just like a shitty situation, typical Philly.
Scumbag Philly fans.
I mean, hate to see it, but again, just overall happy that he's okay and it's nothing more serious than that. And then keeping it on the Philly theme, that's obviously our next team. Keep in mind that Philly will be playing tomorrow night, Tuesday, against Indiana again in an in-season tournament game. So we will be catching Philly on the second night of a back-to-back. I guess that you could say the schedule has been kind of nice to us lately, but we'll see how much that ends up mattering. Just kind of something to watch. And then the last thing, again, on that Oubre situation, wanted to mention one of our fans reached out and said they had a potential lead on the suspect in the hit and run against Kelly Oubre, and they were wondering if that might have been former Celtic Kelly Olynyk. I can't confirm that. He is on Utah right now. I bet he still loves the Celtics, and I think Danny still does too, so he definitely could have sent Kelly to carry out the move. I don't know. I think if that was the play, maybe aim a little.
They got into it like a while back in the playoffs, right? That's what that joke. Okay, yeah. I thought I remembered that.
So just something to monitor, and wanted to shout out our fan for the insightful comment. And again, something I'm happy we'll have to talk to Nick, see if he can put together the funding to send our intern to Philly to maybe get some boots on the ground and see if we can investigate that one a little further.
That'd be some great content.
Yeah, see if we can get to the bottom of that situation. But, other than that, I think that's probably a good place to stop for around the league. There's a few other teams I want to hit on, but I'd rather do it in more depth when we have some more time.
All right, I just have real quick, and we'll go. Hopefully, your battery will maintain it. I did see the Anthony Edwards and Draymond Green thing last night. Just love that. I heard someone like you know what I'm talking. So for anyone who doesn't know, Anthony Edwards got fouled by Draymond going into the hoop, and then Draymond just sort of was like giving him like what the fuck are you gonna do, blah blah, just being his typical fucking idiot self. And the audio kind of on the floor around Anthony Edwards, I'm sorry, just sort of saying like nobody is like scared of you, like you're not like whatever. And then he proceeded to have like a few plays where he went straight at Draymond and got right to the hoop after that. So it was just kind of awesome to see Draymond's antics sort of not really have the intended effect and arguably have a more negative effect. So, Anthony Edwards is definitely becoming one of my favorite non-Celtics players, despite the fact that he played pretty well against us the other day. But yeah, just not a fan of Draymond. So
no, that was a great guy. I know you're not. I know we disagree on Draymond. His antics obviously are annoying, but that's also
when he got
kind
kicked
of the point.
out of the game the other day, he was cheering himself on. Shut the fuck.
I mean, that's just at this point he is who he is. And it works well for him a lot more than it doesn't. But when it doesn't, it's very easy to clown on him.
Yeah,
and I mean, props to Edwards again. Edwards is
shout out to the new media though, but.
Yeah,
I'm still very pro new media, but that guy. Sometimes I just think that.
I know.
I feel like that role that he played was a lot cooler when it felt like it was just natural. Now I feel like it seems like it's a little bit forced sometimes.
Well, so I will get into it, I guess, because the Warriors are one of the other teams I had on the league list. Now that we're there, I mean, I think Draymond's doing this stuff because I think he's trying to cover up some of their holes where Curry is playing still one of clearly the best players in the world. The guy is just
no one else.
Exactly. Wiggins has been he's fallen off a cliff. Of course, he sold his soul, I guess, to win that ship and play like he did against us because he looks so bad right now. He's almost unplayable. Clay is, I think I'd take Sam Hauser over Clay at this point. Chris Paul has actually been awesome, but again,
dirty player.
Well, whatever. Say what you want about Chris Paul, but I mean, he's obviously an amazing player.
We don't have enough battery for our Chris Paul.
We don't have enough for that, but he's been, and I mean, the fit with him on the Warriors has been amazing. That's been part of the reason they're good. But other than him and Curry, who are both very old and very small, they literally just have nobody who can get to the rim, nobody who can create shots. And I mean, again, without setting everything up for Clay, no one who can shoot. So I don't know. That's going to be very interesting. I feel like they kind of have to do something, and I think that was part of this. Draymond trying to do things to light a fire, try to play little mental games like that, and I just don't think they have the talent and the rest of the guys to back him up anymore. So interesting situation to watch because Curry is too good to just toil in mediocrity. But I'm not sure what they do. Do they actually get rid of Clay after everything he's done? Do they just let the ship sink? I don't know. Just a very, very interesting situation to monitor.
Kawhi is going to demand to be traded there. I have no idea if those contracts work out at all, but
I mean, I think they could make that work. Yeah.
You heard it here. First reported by Doug Outs on Chuddy's Corner.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, those are both teams that
I don't know why the Clippers would do that unless things got really bad, or unless he demanded it.
Contract.
What's that?
So Kawhi is not under contract. It's a contract here for Kawhi and PG and Harden and Westbrook. So all four of those guys are expiring. So everyone kind of just assumes Ballmer will re-sign them because they have the new stadium and he's going to want to, run it back with stars to sell. But this could go so south that they just say, fuck that. And you said, if Kawhi is the one to be the first one to say it, get me out of this awful situation. Maybe Golden State's Curry and Kawhi could be semi-interesting. I don't know. That seems like
that's just a shot in the dark. I just want to say it now in case it happens. I can take all the credit for it.
You got it. No, that would be a fun idea. Certainly, I'd love to see the pairing. Would be fun. But
yeah, all right. So I'll let you go just so we don't end up losing you there. One last thing, we don't even have to talk about it, but Joe was rocking a hoodie after the game that just said plain and simple on it. I have no idea what that means, but I want one of those hoodies. I have no idea.
Don't you though? It says it all. What else is there to say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. Plain and simple.
Plain and
simple. I want one of those hoodies. Christmas is around the corner for any chudlings at home. So yeah, that'll wrap it up for us, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Went a little bit long tonight, so those of you that are still with us, we appreciate you listening to the podcast all the way through. Again, Celtics win 114-98. They move to 8-2 on the season. Night off tomorrow, and we'll be going on the road to Philadelphia to play the Sixers on Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing all of you after the game, and looking forward to talking with you about it afterwards, Chud. So have a good rest of your night. Everyone, take care.
Peace out, Chudlings.